Hello and welcome to episode lucky number 13 of Game Day Gameplay. I'm your host, Sean Colangelo, and joined as always by the man I envy the most in the wintertime, Todd from Florida. How's it going, man?
It's going good, Sean. How you doing?
Not too bad. So, um, is there any chance that you stayed up late to watch the women's USA versus Canada hockey last night?
I didn't watch. I stayed up late, but I was not watching. Um, I
Um,
have a very unusual cable situation and didn't feel like trying to sort that out to be able to do it. So
Gotcha. Yeah, it was coming on pretty much as soon as I was about to crash, so I didn't see a whole lot of it. But I guess it was pretty crazy to watch the highlights and Team USA pull it off in a shootout. So
they did. Yeah.
that was pretty cool. Amanda Kessel, relative of our old pal Phil Kessel, scored in the shootout. So pretty cool stuff. What what's your take on shootouts in the Olympics?
I think it's crazy that they still doing medal games. I mean, I can understand doing the qualifying up to it, but I mean, once it's an elimination thing where you're going for the medal, I don't understand why they don't go into sudden death overtime. Like, it,
Yeah, I
here's my thing in the shootout. I think the shootouts are good in regular season kind of situations and things like, qualifying, things like that, because you can't make every game go to a sudden death every time. Maybe in the Olympics you could. I mean, they play so few games anyway that you could probably get away with it. Um, I think part of the reason the Olympics doesn't do it is because they're on such a tight, strict TV schedule. Um, with with what events they show and what events they how soon they have to switch over, that they probably can't afford to have a sudden death every time that could go on for hours over their scheduled time for that event. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I think it's ridiculous that they're settling an Olympic medal with a shootout in hockey, which is be kind of like settling a basketball game in overtime with a game of horse. Like,
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see how in like you know, a match of that importance that you might not want to take that route. But
yeah,
I don't know. I definitely. So I mean, you know, for example, maybe like in the NHL, I definitely don't think that they should do shootouts in the playoffs.
hmm
But I don't know that I would be completely opposed to them doing 3-on-3 overtime like in the playoffs. I really wouldn't personally. I mean,
it's. I mean, even if they're doing that, it's still hockey. You know what I mean? It's still
right.
skill based. It still involves back checking and it's not just guaranteed breakaway after guaranteed breakaway. You know what I mean? Like there's still some level of hockey play involved in it. It's obviously not as slow paced and as methodical as 5-on-5, but I wouldn't change up anything in the overtime with playoffs because the classic 5-on-5 overtimes in the playoff games are kind of hard to get rid of. I mean, look at the just from the last season, the Game 7 every time with Pittsburgh versus Ottawa. I mean, you
Oh
don't want
yeah.
to replace something like that.
No,
It's
yeah.
instant classic.
No, I was there. It was crazy. Um,
Hmm
but um, okay, and then staying with the Olympics. Obviously the main thing that we've been paying any attention to is the hockey.
hmm
The men's team obviously didn't really have quite a run to remember by any means. That which is largely because obviously the NHL did not let their players participate.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you make of that whole situation?
Uh, well, the men's team did even worse than I expected. I mean, I thought the U.S. team would at least be able to beat Slovenia. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
seriously.
Even without the talent from the NHL, I thought they could at least beat Slovenia. But um, I don't necessarily blame the NHL for that because the whole thing is the IOC was completely unwilling to do any kind of market share with them. They wouldn't let them have any merchandising rights, which means they couldn't sell players' jerseys that are on NHL contracts with like their international teams. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
They wouldn't compensate them for having to delay their season for 3 weeks. I mean, why are they going to send these guys over there getting no compensation and then a risk of losing a superstar like Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin to an injury in a game that they got $0 for? You know?
Yeah, I definitely can see it from their side. It just it sucks for fans because I I always look much forward to the Olympics and the usual like inevitable matchup of like USA and Canada, um, and that was never going to happen this year. So it
Yeah.
just sucks, but
It's unfortunate, and I mean I get the Olympic side of hey, it's only once every 4 years, but all it would take is one unfortunate headshot to Crosby, and Crosby never plays a game in the NHL again,
right.
type of thing, or anybody really. Anybody can take an injury seriously enough to shut them out, and I don't think the NHL is going to be letting people let their players take that risk if they're not getting something out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Um,
Um,
so do you have an idea who appears like is going to win it? I mean, probably Russia, right?
Russia's gonna be hard to beat. Russia's still got so much talent because of the KHL players that were allowed to go. I mean, they've
Hmm.
got Datsuk, they got Kovalchuk, they got Nestorov, they got there's other guys. I'm drawing a blank somewhere, but there's other big name guys out there. Kovalchuk and Datsuk alone are probably better than any other player in the Olympics this year. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
so I wouldn't count out teams like Sweden and Norway because you got to remember they still have their own leagues that are also sending guys. Not necessarily the level of teams they've had before, but it's still better than U.S. and Canada had. So don't count them out, but Russia's got to be a big favorite with the talent they have on their roster. It's pretty stacked.
Well, I guess we should say the the OAR, the Olympic
Yeah,
athletes of
well,
Russia. Whatever.
yeah, yeah. You know what I mean?
um, yeah, I know. Well, we're on the topic already, so let's just kick it off with more hockey and what is going on this continent in National Hockey League.
Well, as you know, Sean, the trade deadline is Monday,
It is.
and that is starting to ramp up, and we have more trades to cover this week than I think we've covered all year so far. Before we get into that, though, one piece of injury news I saw that was pretty significant. Shea Weber. He hasn't played since December 18th with a foot injury. It is now official he will not be back this season. They are shutting him down. He has to have surgery to repair a tendon that is torn in his left foot. So Montreal is going to be without Weber for the rest of the year, and hopefully not even longer than that. I don't know what the recovery time would be on a surgery like that. Kind of need your foot to skate. So
Yeah, well,
um,
that's unfortunate news for a Habs team that has really been struggling all year. So,
yeah, see, it's kind of up and down because I think the Habs are kind of at the point already where they've accepted the fact they're not going to make the playoffs. So Shea Weber not coming back is probably a better thing because it's just going to assure that they get a higher draft pick at that point.
that's true.
Um, it's also probably going to lead to Montreal being heavy sellers to come at the deadline whenever that comes around. I mean, you could probably see Plekanec's probably going to go. I can't imagine they hold on to Thomas Plekanec. Galchenyuk could go. We all know the storied history of Galchenyuk in Montreal and how they've wasted his potential. Pacioretty could go. That one's less likely, but I could see it happening still. There's not a lot of guys that are safe in Montreal. Duet's probably the only guy they wouldn't trade at this point in time. So,
I'd say him or in Price. It's probably about it.
well, they wouldn't be able to trade Price anyways. No one's going to pay that much for a goalie.
Yeah, true.
Um, that contract would be completely unmovable in my opinion. But
What does he make?
um, well, he's not too bad this year. I think he's only making like 6.5 this year, but his extension kicks in next year, and it's going to be was 10.5, I think, wasn't it?
Oh Lord.
Give me 1 second. I'll pull up Cap Friendly and tell you. But while I'm doing that, let's start breaking down the trades that have happened in the last week. I'm gonna try to go in reverse chronological order, so the oldest trades to the newest ones. But it started off with Chicago. They sent Michael Kempney, who was a defenseman, to Washington for a third-round pick in 2018. Um, Washington then waived Taylor Shorney, who was picked up by Columbus. So basically, Washington just replaced Shorney with Kempney. Kind of a positive move. It's not a huge one. It's not like a world breaker, but Kempney was a solid 5 or 6 guy for Chicago this year. So gives them a little bit more depth in their defensive lineup. Chicago gets a third round pick out of him. That's decent. It's not. It's about what guys that level go for. So pretty good trade for both teams, to be honest with you. Chicago has seemed like they've accepted the fact that they're not going to make the playoffs this year, which is absolutely crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, we knew they weren't going to be what they used to be, but it is pretty crazy that they're at the bottom of the Central, right?
I believe so. Give me 1 second. I'll confirm that. By the way, Carey Price, 10.5 million was that is the his cap hit that kicks in next year. So
The the only thing worse than that is paying Taves $10.5 million.
yeah, pretty much, which Chicago is finding out. But yeah, they
Yeah.
are bottom in the Central right now. It's kind of deceptive because they are 11 points out of the playoff spot, so that'd be
Wow.
hard to make up with only 21 games left. Um,
That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah, I didn't predict that. I mean, like you said, I was on the train of Chicago's going to take a step back. I still had them finishing like second or third in the division and making the playoffs, though I didn't think they would fall off this hard. Um, but they've lost too much in the cap. I mean, if we want to look at where Chicago went wrong, the first thing I saw immediately is Panarin for Saad.
Yeah, that was a really
That
bad
trade
trade.
is awful, and that to me that reeks of Chicago trying to keep Tays happy to me. Because Tays has been vocal about the fact that he loves to play with Saad, and he wasn't happy when they didn't re-sign him. And there was a big to do about them not having any wingers for Tays to play with last year, so they went and did that. And now Saad has 27 points in 60 some games, I think 60 games, and Panarin has almost 50 in the same amount of games. So
Yeah, I mean, like, even if they didn't have to sacrifice much to go back out and get Sod, I mean, in most cases, if you are willing to part with a player and trade him, there's probably a reason for that. And the
mm-hmm.
whole, like, trying to reunite the old band back together and win another cup,
Yeah,
I knew from the beginning that it probably wasn't going to work. I mean, they even brought back Sharp on like a real cheap
yeah,
deal.
that one was kind of a low risk deal. That was a 1 year, 1 million deal, so
Yeah, but I
can't
mean,
really
like,
fault him much for that one.
yeah, but I'm just saying you could tell what their intent was, and
Yeah,
I had a feeling from the beginning that it just wasn't going to work. And on top of that, in the process, you sacrifice Panarin, who is
mm-hmm.
an extremely talented player. I mean, he's a game breaker.
Yeah,
Um, I just don't get that, and it's
yeah.
obviously not working out for him. So
They got some awful contracts too, dude. I mean, Sod makes 6 million, which I like Sod. I think he's an okay player. He's not a $6 million player though. He's just not. And
Um,
then
yeah, I
Seabrook's
mean that.
making over 7.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, those might not look quite as bad once the cap goes up, but even still, it's a bit much. Um,
yeah,
and obviously, I can see paying Kane 10-5, but Taves, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't care how good
no.
of a leader he is, but you don't.
If you're a 60 point guy, you don't deserve 10.5 million.
No,
You
it's
just don't.
just not.
7, maybe 8, if you're gonna pay him for the fact that he's a Selkie guy, but 10.5 is far too much for a guy of Tays scoring caliber because you pay for scoring in the league. That's just what it comes down to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
Uh, it. Is it fair? Are there guys that contribute a lot more than points to their team? Yeah, but at the end of the day, the guys that are out there scoring 80, 90 points are the guys that are going to get the big bucks. So
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but all right, keeping up with our trades here. After the Kempney trade, we had another pretty big one, probably the biggest one so far in terms of people moving. Philly trades a conditional 2018 fourth and a 2019 third to Detroit for Peter Mrazek. Um,
Right, and that's because they lost Mason
Elliott,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
not
Elliott
Mason.
went down with a pretty significant injury. I think he's out for probably till the playoffs at this point. And then Newverth went down the other night. I think like a week ago. Newverth got hurt in a game, and they kind of were down to their third string goalie. So they made the trade for Mrazek to um, you know make sure they keep in the playoff race because they are in third place in the Metro right now. Um,
Yeah, somehow.
Detroit, they've been wanting to get rid of Mrazek for a while. I know. I don't know why they're getting Mrazek instead of Howard. Mrazek is younger. I don't think either one of them is that great. But if you have two not great goalies, I don't know why you wouldn't stick with at least the younger one. Um, Not a lot for him. I mean, 2018 fourth and 2019 third, both are conditional. I'm not sure what the conditions are. I don't know if they've been made public yet, but I don't even know if they're guaranteed picks or if it's ones where they have to, Mrazek has to resign or something for them to get the pick, which he's not going to resign. Philly's already got Newirth and Elliott locked up. This is just a rental thing, so.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that works out. I mean, the Flyers, they haven't had a. I mean, when's the last time they had a good goalie? I mean, almost never, which has
Bob, right?
been
Probably.
which has been their Achilles heel like for so long. I mean, because they usually have pretty solid teams, but they just have terrible goaltending. Um, I don't know if the answer is Mrazek, but I could see why they would try. They don't have much of a choice.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought Mason was decent. I didn't think he was, a world ender or anything like that. I didn't think he was, a top talent. But I always thought he was probably the best goalie they've had since Bob. I was pretty surprised they let him go, especially for Brian Elliott in this offseason.
hmm
But I don't know. Mason hasn't done well in Winnipeg either, so maybe they knew something I didn't. But coming up after that, the Rangers traded Nick Holden to Boston for defenseman Rob O'Gara, who's more of a prospect kind of defenseman, and a 2018 third. This is the start of the Rangers selling off their team, pretty much. They've already basically told their fans they're going to do that. So you'll see the Rangers moving a bunch of guys, I think, here at at the deadline. I think Grabner's going to go. Nash is probably going to go. Zuccarello could go. There's a lot of guys that could end up moving.
Well,
McDonough.
well, I know they want to get rid of Nash, but good luck with that.
He's only got 1 year left. They can retain, so I don't think there will be that much of a problem with it with his contract. I think somebody will take him. I honestly think Columbus is probably going to get him back. To be honest with you.
You think so? Well,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, I guess they're not out of it. I mean, so I mean, I guess they'll be buyers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Columbus needs help with scoring. That's kind of their biggest problem. To be honest with you, is just guys that
hmm
can put the puck in the net. And I mean, Nash at one point could, and he has ties to the organization, so I think it makes a lot of sense for them.
Well, he has ties, but didn't he request a trade out of there?
Uh, yeah, but I mean, can you really blame him at the time with the team that Columbus
No,
was?
no, no. But I just
So,
don't know if that might not be a good relationship, I guess there. But who
true,
knows? Who knows?
true. But going back to the Holden trade, Boston picks up a decent depth guy. He's probably gonna play number 6 for them, I would say. Didn't pay a lot either, a third round pick and a defenseman that they probably wouldn't crack the lineup. The Boston's got a lot of young defense, dude. They got McAvoy, they got Krug, they got Zaboral down in the minors. There's one guy up in their roster I'm missing. I can't remember his name. But they're stacked with young defensemen. So picking up Holden, who's a 31-year-old guy, but is a solid veteran leadership, and lets them kind of take some of these younger guys and push them back a little bit to get a run going. Because they are playing. They're a hot team right now. They're right on the heels of Tampa for first in the Atlantic. So Boston's a scary team. I don't want anything to do with them in the playoffs. I hope they get knocked out before the ECF if the Pens are in it. So
um, yeah, I'm just like amazed that they are doing as well as they have. I mean, I don't like. I've not paid much attention to them. I just remember the last time the Penguins played Boston. I literally didn't know who anybody was, like aside from like outside of their core guys. I
mm-hmm.
didn't know who like any of Boston's player. I was like, who are? I was like, who are these guys? I don't know who any of them are, but apparently they're all doing pretty good. So, um,
They're getting a lot of contribution from guys that are kind of in their first stint in the National League. Dan Heinen's one, Jake DeBrusk is one, Sean Corrali is one. Noah Kari, it's not his first stint, but he's picked it up a little bit this year. And then obviously they've still got Marchand, they got Pasternak, Bergeron, who is kind of like a Tays player, and he's a 60-point player, but he's only making 6.88 mil, which is a lot more reasonable. So Bergeron's a really good player. And then Krejci, who's fallen off, I think, but is still a decent 2C. So
yeah, I feel like their only their only issue will probably be Tampa, but
yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, well, that'll be an
Obviously,
entertaining series. I can't
yeah.
wait to watch that one. But oh, keep going down the trade line. This one's kind of a minor move. Toronto gets rid of Eric Ferrer's contract. He sent him to San Jose for a 2020 seventh round pick. That's a cap dump. That is all that is. That is Toronto saying if Eric Ferrer's not playing our lineup, he's making $2 million. We don't want him here. And Tampa or San Jose said we might be able to fit him in. So
Right. Yeah. Uh, I feel for Fair because I remember when the Pens traded him to the Leafs. I guess that kind of caught him off guard, and he wasn't really expecting to be traded. He wasn't very happy about it, and now he's on the move yet again. So, but
uh,
it's the way it goes.
well, I was super excited when the Pens signed Fair and before the 2015 run. I was there with you. We were doing the armchair GMs, and every one of them, we were like, they got to sign Fair. They got to sign Fair.
Yeah, we actually we called that. Um, we absolutely thought that they were going to do that, and I remember we were just happy about that because it seemed like every time the Penguins played the Caps, Fair scored like every time.
hmm
So I was like, yes, please, please sign him so he just can't score on us anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a pretty good run with us the 2015-16 run.
Yeah,
He played well for us in a 4C role. Unfortunately, Matt Cullen coming in kind of pushed him out of the lineup in the next
right,
year
right.
because Cullen was way better of a player than Fair was, and once he was out of the lineup, he's just making too much money to not be playing. So,
Yeah.
um, keep going down the line here. Washington sends a 2019 fifth round pick to Montreal for defenseman Jacob Jarabek. I think that's a minor league move, or at the very least, he's going to be like a seventh or eighth guy. I've never really heard of Jarabek. I don't know what his role turns out to be, but I don't think he was playing in the league or the NHL for Montreal. So probably something to shore up their minor defense. To be honest, that might be them replacing the fact that they lost Shorney too on the waivers.
Yeah.
So Arizona trades Tobias Reeder and goalie Scott Wedgwood to LA for goalie Darcy Kemper. Um, this one was kind of a surprise to me. Kemper has been playing really well for LA as a backup, and he's been seeing a lot more play because Quick has been struggling um, in some of his games. Quick might have his last couple games. I think he's picked it up, so I don't know if that made LA think that they could get rid of Kemper, and while he has value, obviously Reeder's a good bottom six guy for him. He brings a little bit of an edge. He's kind of a physical player, but he also has a bit of a scoring touch. Reeder's one of those guys that always scores against the Pens too. You ever notice that?
Yeah, seems that way.
Every time we play Arizona, Tobias Reeder scores. But um, yeah, that was a strange one for me. I can't believe the Kings moved Kemper, given that they're still trying to get a push going in the Pacific, and Quick hasn't been lights out this year. They do get Wedgwood back, but I mean, this is the third team Wedgwood's played for this year, so yeah, that tells you all you need to know about Wedgwood.
All
Um,
right.
Arizona, they're trying to solve their goalie answer. I mean, Ranta hasn't been the answer. Wedgwood wasn't the answer. They need a goalie that can play, and I guess they're trying to see if Kemper can keep up his hot streak, but he'll probably be garbage in Arizona too because their team's garbage.
Yeah, it's
And
usually
the
how it goes.
last one I just saw today. Excuse me. The Bruins trade Ford Frank Vetrano to Florida for a 2018 third round pick. I don't know if you remember Vetrano. Last year, every time we played the Pens, Vetrano scored. Every single time. Every time we played the Bruins, the Pens. Every time. He was in the minors for like half the season, and when he would play the baby Pens, he would score. Like, I don't know what it was about Vetrano, but he was just a penguin ender. It was kind of crazy. Um, he was lighting it up in the minors. I think he was actually the scoring leader at one point in the minors last year. But every time he came up, he couldn't crack better than the fourth line. And I guess the Bruins didn't see a place for him in the organization. I don't know if they're trying to replace that third round pick they sent to Boston for Holden, or sent to New York, sorry, for Holden. Um, they do have a third round pick back now. So basically, they traded Vetrano and Rob O'Gara for Nick Holden, which isn't an awful move on their end. They still keep the pick and probably get a better pick to be honest, because Florida's pick's going to be higher than theirs. So
All right.
that's all I saw going down today. I haven't seen any other trades break today, but it's gonna get busy. Probably next week when we cover it. We're gonna have a lot to report on, especially from Monday's trades when they come up.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, this episode will probably go up to Sunday, and the day after is the deadline. So, a lot of what will happen will happen. Actually, the day after this goes up, but the following episode, obviously, there will probably be a lot to report because a lot of what happens will happen like right at the last second. So,
Yeah,
but
the NHL is one of those leagues that has a famously active trade deadline too.
yeah,
More so than really any other league out there, maybe except for MLB. I don't follow MLB trades as much, so I don't know how active they are. But the NHL is ridiculously active at the deadline. So
for sure. Yeah, it'll be a very interesting next episode. That's for sure. We'll cap things off with the NBA, but before that, I wasn't sure. I mean, I figured you didn't have a whole lot in terms of the NFL and MLB, but I didn't.
no, the only thing I had for the NFL, the Colts have re-signed Adam Vinatieri for a one-year deal. And Vinatieri is 45 years old, and the dude is not going anywhere. He's still
That's
a
wow.
hell of a kicker. Still a hell of a kicker, man. I love Adam Vinatieri. I will always
Uh,
love Adam Vinatieri, but
We'll start calling him
um,
Yager.
yeah, pretty much. Kickers do generally play a lot longer than most other positions in
Well, yeah, it
NFL
makes
because
sense.
they don't get hit. But still, at 45, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
And the fact that he's still playing just as well as he ever did. So, Colts don't have to worry about a kicker this year at least. So
right.
that's good for them.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up with hardwood.
Sounds good. Really don't have that much for the hardwood to be honest. They had their All-Star game this week, so they were on the All-Star break. They didn't play a lot of games. They're already past their deadline, so there's not a lot of movement. Um, let's talk about I'm sure you didn't watch the NBA All-Star game, right?
No, I did not.
Did you hear the rendition of the national anthem that was at that All-Star game?
I heard about it. I did not. I didn't watch the actual footage though. But
It's not pretty. It was Fergie
right.
was the person that was involved with it, but it was ugly. Put it
Yeah,
that way.
I need to watch it, but I heard
She's
not
actually
some
come
not
out
good
and
things.
apologized for how bad it was. So when the singer herself is like, "Yeah, that was awful," you
Hmm.
know it's pretty bad.
Damn.
And it's funny because they have the clips of like Steph and LeBron and all these guys trying their hardest not to laugh at her while she's singing. It's
You're
pretty funny
right,
to watch.
right. Oh,
But
man.
the only thing I saw newsworthy this week, because of like I said, All Star break, there wasn't a lot going on. Greg Popovich, who is the coach for the San Antonio Spurs, has come out and said that he doesn't think Kawhi Leonard will be back for the team this season. Leonard's only played, I think, like 6 games this year. He had injury problems in the offseason that carried over, and then he came back and then got injured again. So, been a rough year for Leonard, but Kawhi, when he's playing, is probably a top 3 player in the league. So they are
Yeah.
definitely missing him.
Yeah. That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, San Antonio is still in 3rd place in the West, so they're figuring out without him. I would say let him take as much time as he needs off to recover and look at the future because he's still a really young guy. I think he's only in like his 3rd or 4th year, to be honest with you. And he's a really good player, so there's no reason to rush him back and potentially pull a Derrick Rose on him, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but outside of that, the only thing I was going to cover is the standings in the NBA. We don't have really any other news to cover, so over in the East right now, Toronto's in 1st, Boston is in 2nd, Cleveland has picked up and are now in 3rd place. Washington is in 4th, the Wizards. Indiana, Milwaukee, Philly, and Miami, 5th through 6th. And then over in the West, Houston has picked up 1st. Golden State's been kind of slumping a little bit. I say that in relative terms because they're still Golden State. They're still one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah,
still
for
top
sure.
3 team in the league right now, but they're dropping out a little bit in their terms. They're in 2nd right now. San Antonio's in 3rd, like I said. Minnesota's in 4th, and then Oklahoma City, Denver, Portland, and New Orleans are following up behind them. So starting to settle out. That's probably going to be who you'll see in the playoffs. I mean, there might be 1 or 2 teams that drop out in the 8th spot for another team, but at least the top 6, I would say, are probably a lock for the playoffs at this point with the way the NBA goes.
You are probably right, my friend.
But that's all I had, man. Like I said, it was a slow news week outside of anything but the NHL with all the trades. So.
Right. Well, next week will probably be the same. Maybe a little more NBA news because we'll be out of the break by then. But
Yeah.
and the Olympics will be over by then, so we might be able to cap off the hockey winners.
Should be able to.
So we will definitely do that.
All right.
All right, man. Well, as always, thank you for the information.
Of course.
If you enjoyed this, of course, like and subscribe. Comment. If you didn't, comment and tell us why. And also keep an eye out for the Console Space podcast, which we do once every, usually week, sometimes 2, depending on if we can get together, which we talk about video games. And yeah, on that note, man, we'll do it again next week.
Sounds good. I'll be here. I'll see you next week.
Later, bye.
Have a good one.